Alright, just getting everything set up here. Alright, if there's anyone out there and listening, just throw something in the chat real quick, making sure you can hear me. That would be super appreciated. As I just move this around, see if the delay makes its way over to the YouTube part of the stream. There is a delay. There it is. Very nice. Still waiting on additional people to arrive. There's Spoinkman. So we have Charlie versus Jeremy. So Charlie today is running a hard Trick Room team, is running a Mega Camerupt, Mega Mawile, a Tyranitar with Focus Sash, a Citrus Berry for Ridgiraffe, a Grimmsnarl with Light Clay, and a Primarina with Life Orb. So very specially bulky team, and especially a slow team for Spoinkman, absolutely requiring this for Ridgiraffe to get a Trick Room up to win any speed control wars. Meanwhile, Jeremy is running a Mega Charizard Y, an Incineroar. Let's just get that going. Incineroar, a Garchomp, a Rotom Wash. The team sheet doesn't appear to show any specific form, but it does have Hydro Pump, and we can see it there as Rotom Wash. A Mega Venusaur, and a Focus Sash Aerodactyl. The Garchomp, I think I might have missed that. The Garchomp is Life Orb. So we are looking at a hard Trick Room team into a very standard looking Sun offense. You've got double flyers in Aerodactyl and Charizard. Aerodactyl can of course give a tailwind to ensure Jeremy's team is faster, but Charlie's team doesn't really care about that. A Trick Room will flip the speed tiers around on their head. Notably, Charlie does have Tyranitar to counter this Charizard. As long as it's able to switch in and disrupt the sun, it's not worried about Solar Beam at all if the sand is up. But to counteract that, there's that Garchomp is very threatening to Tyranitars. The Garchomp is very threatening to just about everything on Charlie's side of the field, with the exception of that Primarina. That Primarina being a fairy type, and I believe the single strongest starter in terms of offensive stats. I believe it has the highest attack or special attack in its case in the game. But we see a Charizard Incineroar lead coming straight out of the gate, and we see the Farigiraf and the Grimmsnarl come out as well. So this Grimmsnarl, as I mentioned, is Light Clay, does have the dual screens along with Parting Shot and Spirit Break, so no fake out from Charlie's side and no fake out from Jeremy's side because of that Armored Tail ability. We see immediate offense going out. We see the Mega Charizard Y setting up the sun. If the Tyranitar had switched in this turn, that would have neutralized it, but instead it goes for it now, trying to get big damage off, and a Protect Light Screen combo comes out from Charlie's side of the field. that will massively reduce the damage of this Heat Wave into this Grimmsnarl, except no, the Grimmsnarl misses. So completely no damage going out that turn, and a free light screen set up for Charlie's side of the field. That is absolutely massive. So now you have to think about, okay, Charlie's side of the field is very much set up defensively for a Trick Room with that light screen set up. Am I going to be able to manage this? We could see a parting shot into one of these slow Pokemon and a Trick Room set up on this turn. Alternatively, we could see a double up into one of these Pokemon, but I think Charlie has a good advantage here. On Jeremy's side, you of course have a slower parting shot potential. Let me just double check. And we see a Tyranitar just hard switching out, not wanting to risk a parting shot going into a Protect, neutralizing the damage of this Heat Wave that does break the Focus Sash on this Tyranitar and does some decent chip to the Farigiraf even without the Sun. However, without that bonus Sun damage, this Farigiraf does survive that double up. This is a strong Incineroar. It is Adamant Nature, but the Trick Room does go up, and that does allow Farigiraf to stay alive after the Sandstorm damage. That 25% additional HP coming in clutch from that Citrus Berry. And now we have a Tyranitar that is here, and it is ready to start raining down Rock Slides. This is a Brave Tyranitar running Rock Slide, presumably minimum speed, and the Charizard, or rather the Incineroar, gets out wanting to be able to get an Intimidate out later. The Farigiraf switches out immediately into this Mega Camerupt, wanting to get big damage out with Sheer Force, Earth Powers, Heat Waves, and Ancient Powers. We see a Rock Slide come out, going to do very minimal damage to the Garchomp, and the Charizard protected itself, wanting no part of that stab 4-time super effective hit. And now you have to imagine that the Charizard is going to switch out into this Incineroar. So we'll see what Charlie wants to do here. The Garchomp will probably survive any sort of attacks into it, maybe even a double up. I'm not sure entirely how strong this Mega Camerupt is. It's not a Pokemon seen often enough that I have the calcs memorized, but you have to imagine that we could potentially see the Tyranitar switch out to counteract the Charizard Y Sun later. But this Camerupt, of course, is not a Pokemon that minds the Sun over much. We don't see the Charizard switch. We see the Mega Camerupt come out, and perhaps the Charizard was expecting an Earth Power into that slot. And no, it is Earth Power, but not into that slot. And wow, that is an incredible amount of damage. Sheer Force Earth Power will do massive damage, and that's just a double KO on the side of Charlie here. Absolutely massive. This Trick Room putting in absolute dividends, double KOing the Charizard and the Garchomp, and forcing Jeremy down to his last two Pokemon. We know one of them is this Incineroar, is going to get an Intimidate off, and now we do have Fake Out available potentially. Armortail isn't currently on the field, but could switch in. It is still around, able to threaten that, and we see the Rotom. Now, the Rotom Hydro Pump is super effective damage into both Pokemon on Charlie's side of the field, but there is still a light screen. The Farigiraf comes out wanting to ensure no Fake Out shenanigans. Incineroar doesn't click Fake Out, but it doesn't, without that priority and no Protect, this Incineroar is just going to go down to an Earth Power. This Mega Camerupt is doing massive damage. We see the Hydro Pump coming out into the Camerupt. That 4-time super effective hit will allow Jeremy to take out one Pokemon here. But you have to imagine this Rotom's in a massive uphill battle. It is holding a Magnet, not a Choice Scarf, as some of them are wont to do. So it is entirely possible for it to switch moves. But at this point, I'm not sure what this Rotom would want to go for. It has Thunderbolt, Hydro Pump, and Electro Web for options. And you have to imagine this Grimmsnarl, still faster under Trick Room, is just going to click Spirit Break to take this down, lowering the special attack of this Rotom. There comes a Hyper Voice from the Farigiraf. Rotom will go down next turn, most likely. An Electrorub comes out, misses the Grimmsnarl, but will connect into the Farigiraf, not quite taking it out with that Light Screen. Again, the duration being increased by the Light Clay is absolutely massive. Still around for, I think, two more turns. And even with the Trick Room ending, this Rotom will be faster and will have the opportunity to take out this Farigiraf potentially. Goes for a Hydro Pump into the Grimmsnarl instead, but this Rotom has been missing moves, unfortunately, and that does allow the Grimmsnarl to just take it out. So a really good and strong game one from Charlie, showing that the Trick Room mode of his team is extraordinarily powerful. And if you're Jeremy, you're going to have to consider how you want to handle that going forward. The Garchomp looked like an incredible option into the... Let me just get this reset up. Incredible option into the Tyranitar, but that Mega Camera just did so much damage. Even without a Life Orb, Sheer Force is such a powerful ability, especially backed by its special attack stat and same type attack bonus moves that have good secondary effects that you can strip off for a 30% power boost due to Sheer Force. So right now, I'm thinking that Jeremy needs to consider, how do I stop that same setup from happening this time as opposed to last time? With the Light Screen and the lack of sun, that Farigiraf was just barely able to survive the double up into it. And you have to wonder, is that something that Jeremy will be able to account for as we head into this game too? So we see that Jeremy is now sending out Rotom and Charizard as opposed to bringing out Incineroar, while Charlie brings out the exact same lead. So changing things up a little bit. Electroweb, not the most useful move here, making your opponent slower when you know they're a Trick Room team, but maybe hoping that a more powerful Hydro Pump and Thunderbolt, maybe changing the targeting priority. We will see what is being chosen here. Immediately going for a Mega Evolution, presumably not clicking Hydro Pump with the Rotom on this turn. But with two special attackers out, you have to imagine a Light Screen is just going to come out. Now, notably, the Farigiraf did not protect this turn, so it is going to get hit by this Heat Wave. We see both Pokemon hit this turn, and potentially a massive burn into this Farigiraf. A Thunderbolt goes into it, doing good magnet-boosted damage, but still the Farigiraf hangs on, and with that Citrus Berry goes just over 50% HP. But no Trick Room this time, going straight for a Hyper Voice. And that makes things very interesting. That burn just chipping down this Farigiraf, getting it back under half of its maximum HP. And you have to think about, what is this Farigiraf going to do? It's not safe to just take two sets of attacks and click Trick Room this game. Potentially a massive miscalculation on the side of Charlie, thinking that the Farigiraf might have time to do so. It's also possible that Charlie adjusted and doesn't believe he needs the Trick Room to win this match. We see another Heat Wave come out. It's blocked by Protect by the Farigiraf, but this Grimmsnarl is going to take good damage. Now, notably, the Grimmsnarl did go for a Spirit Break instead of a priority parting shot or something of the like, getting more damage down on this Rotom, lowering its special attack, potentially hoping for a double up survival with that play. The Grimmsnarl does have access to Parting Shot, can lower the special attack of one of these two Pokemon going forward. Potentially at -1, a Heat Wave from Charizard and a Thunderbolt from Rotom won't be able to get the job done. We do see the Parting Shot into the Charizard, weakening it. And are we just going to see the Tyranitar come out on this turn? It is the Tyranitar, so the sun goes away, obscured by the sand. And we see a Heat Wave come out. That misses massive onto Farigiraf. It's definitely going to survive now to get one more attack off. The Tyranitar does lose its Focus Sash, but that's fine. And oh my gosh, Jeremy, just from bad to worse, missing both moves here. The Hydro Pump, even at -1, without the Sun halving its power, might have been able to do good damage to this Farigiraf. And now the Tyranitar and the Farigiraf are the fastest things under Trick Room. The burn, with both moves missing, isn't going to be enough to take down the Farigiraf. And so now Charlie is once again in the power position in terms of speed, able to move before anything on Jeremy's team. So we know the Charizard has Protect, as does this Rotom. They can choose to stall out a turn of this Trick Room, trying to buy time, and that's exactly what it looks like is going to happen, at least from the Rotom, going for Protect, and so does the Charizard. Of course, the Rotom would go first under Trick Room. So we see a double up Rock Slide, Hyper Voice. I don't see a reason why anything else would be clicked here by Charlie. Just going for that spread damage. There's no Wide Guard or anything to protect both Pokemon on Jeremy's side of the field from that. We see some Sandstorm Chip, and the Sandstorm Chip, along with the chip from the burn, is whittling down this Farigiraf, but with that earlier Citrus Berry, it still is able to live one more turn of burn plus sand. So this Farigiraf is completely fine on this turn. Plus, if Farigiraf goes down, that just allows you a free switch into one of your very powerful Trick Room sweepers. We saw what the Mega Camera Up could do last game, and that Mega Mawile is no less threatening. So right now, Jeremy has to consider potentially going for a double protect, switching. What does it want to switch into? We see the Farigiraf just switching out itself, wanting to preserve that priority protection Armor Tail in future turns, and meanwhile the Rotom is switching out as well, wanting to preserve that Levitate and Water Stab, but it switches out as the Incineroar comes in and as the Garchomp comes in. So the knockoff isn't going to be doing over much into this Incineroar, resisted at -1, but it does remove the Citrus Berry. So effectively, it did 25% more damage than it would have otherwise, assuming, of course, the Incineroar is able to handle this Earth Power that could come out into it. Now, we know from last game, a Mega Camera Up Earth Power into this Garchomp plus 2 Rock Slides will take it out. So this Garchomp should be able to survive that if that's what the Tyranitar and Camera Up go for, but I would imagine that a knockoff plus Earth Power would be enough to take out this Garchomp. So looking at the team sheets, this Garchomp does have Protect, so there is a threat of a Protect. We don't see a switch into the Farigiraf to stop a Fake Out, and that is red. A Fake Out goes straight into this Camera Up, preventing it from getting off an Earth Power, but a Rock Slide comes out, hoping for some flinches, doing good damage into this Incineroar, and here's where that knockoff value comes in, not allowing the healing, and the Rock Slide Flint is absolutely massive. A big damage Stomping Tantrum or Earthquake could have come out from this Garchomp, potentially taking out one or both Pokemon on Charlie's side of the field, but where there's a Rock Slide flinch, there's a way, and Charlie says he has a way. So now there's no Fake Out, no way to prevent this Mega Camera Up from clicking Earth Power into something. The only reason it wouldn't is that you have 2 Pokemon immune to Earth Power just hanging out in the back. But this Camera Up does have Ancient Power. With the secondary effect neutralized by Sheer Force, that will probably take out the Rotom, and most definitely will take out a Charizard switch in. So right now we're in a mental game. Do I click Earth Power on what's in front of me, or do I click Ancient Power on what you could switch in? So we see a Protect coming out from the Garchomp. That does mean that it looks like this Incineroar did not go for a Protect here. We see a Rock Slide come out. Does the Incineroar miss? Does Jeremy get the luck that Charlie has had all set? And no, the Incineroar goes down, does not go for Protect, tries to go for a Darkest Lariat or Parting Shot to weaken one of these Pokemon by the looks of it. But perhaps that's what he wanted. Perhaps he just simply wanted the Incineroar to go down, because now the Trick Room is gone, the sand is gone, and the Charizard is out. and looking to threaten these Pokemon with a Solar Beam. We can see an Earthquake come out here from the Garchomp. The Charizard is immune, as is the Rotom in the back, and both Pokemon on Charlie's side of the field are weak to it. I'm not sure, depending on this, Garchomp is a Jolly nature, so not adamant for max damage, but if you're running a Jolly Garchomp, you're presenting as being a more offensively inclined set. So we will see just how strong this Garchomp is and how bulky both of Charlie's Pokemon are here. A Solar Beam could come out, would do good damage in this Tyranitar, ensure a KO on it, or into this Camerupt with a ground move follow-up. We see the Garchomp immediately clicking Earthquake, being the fastest thing on the field. We'll see how much this does, and we'll just immediately take out this Camerupt after that little bit of chip damage from the Fake Out. And this Tyranitar is now very low. The Life Orb, like I mentioned, this being an offensive Garchomp, here comes a Solar Beam into this Tyranitar, and suddenly we have a 13% Farigiraf and a Grimmsnarl left on the field. The Grimmsnarl never clicking Reflect earlier in the match to potentially protect against this outcome. And now it's just the Grimmsnarl and the Farigiraf left. So I think very well played by Jeremy, stalling out the Trick Room. It looked disastrous after the double miss allowed it to get set up, but Jeremy was able to pull it back, stall out the Trick Room, reading the lack of a switch in to the Farigiraf to prevent a Fake Out perfectly. And so just stalling out ever more the Trick Room there. Very well played. So now both players have to go into Game 3, and you have to consider how does Charlie want to adjust. Both trainers have brought the same 4 Pokemon to each match. You have to wonder if they really think, and have won a game with the same 4 Pokemon. Jeb adjusted his lead ever so slightly, bringing the Rotom instead of the Incineroar in the front, but you don't need Incineroar in the front if your opponent is just going to lead Grimmsnarl and Farigiraf. So we'll have to see how does Spoinkman adjust. Does he want to go with his double supportive Pokemon lead, or does he want to try threatening a little bit more quickly? Camerupt does have Protect. We could see a Trick Room Protect turn 1 going for immediate offensive pressure from this Camerupt. Alternatively, we could see the Mawile. This Garchomp has proven to be problematic, and this Mawile would easily take it out. Same with the Primarina. Those are being the 2 Pokemon we have not yet seen from Charlie's side of the field, as both players really considering this, the preparing for battle timer going down to 2 seconds before all Pokemon are locked in by these trainers. You have to consider what all they're going to adjust. So we see Charizard and Rotom coming out saying, hey, I think this can beat any lead you have. And we see the Farigiraf and the Grimmsnarl coming out. You have to expect turn 1 to go fairly similarly for these teams. You have to expect a light screen coming out to massively hinder the damage that both of these Pokemon can output on this turn. So will we see a burn? That burn did good chip damage to this Farigiraf over the course of last game. The Charizard, of course, going for the Mega Evolution immediately, presumably going to click that Heat Wave, wanting to do good spread damage, chip down both players. That Sun letting it do massive damage, of course. In this time, we see a repeat of turn 1, the Protect on the Farigiraf, expecting a double up into that slot, just as the Grimmsnarl goes for a light screen. Here comes a Heat Wave, going to be not doing too much to this Grimmsnarl, as this Farigiraf survives the double up, the Heat Wave and Thunderbolt doing absolutely nothing, letting the light screen get set up for free. Now you have to wonder, with the Farigiraf on far more HP than it was last game, it is in a position where it could just click Trick Room right now. And the Grimmsnarl could parting shot out into a Trick Room sweeper immediately. So if you are, it doesn't go for that. Looks to be going for a similar move as last game for a Spirit Break. And instead of trying to take it out before that can happen, we see the Thunderbolt into the Farigiraf, taking it back to half HP. A Spirit Break does come out into the Rotom, getting one level of special attack drops on this Pokemon. And we see the Trick Room come out immediately here. So, how is this going to go now? The Grimmsnarl is much lower than it was last game, but it has lowered the special attack of this Rotom. It can go first with a parting shot to lower the offenses of one of the Pokemon left on Jeremy's side of the field. You have to wonder, are you going to see a double swap of sorts? We see the Farigiraf switch out into the Camerupt. It will be fine against the Heat Waves, but we'll see if Jeremy switches it up and goes for a Hydro Pump here. Absolutely critical turn. The Rotom instead just switches out into the Incineroar. And this time we have the same situation as last game. A Heat Wave comes out from the Charizard, doing minimal damage to both Pokemon. Does break the Focus Sash on this Tyranitar, but will we see a Fake Out? This is absolutely critical because we could see Farigiraf come in and block that and allow whichever Pokemon stays in to get a big damage move off. We can see a Rock Slide from this Tyranitar or a Earth Power / Power Gem from this Camerupt. This is a mind games. It's a 50-50 on what you expect. And it really, the entire battle could come down to this turn. We have several more turns of Trick Room and Light Screen to protect this side of the field. We see the Farigiraf come out, predicting a Fake Out, but an Incineroar instead switches in, saying, I think you're going to Earth Power into this slot and switch out the Tyranitar perhaps. So the Rotom comes in a good mid-ground. We see a Rock Slide come out. The Charizard is protected, and Rock Slide will do good damage into this Rotom, taking it down under half. Sandstorm Chip will help a little bit, but now we have a threat of the Incineroar coming back in, lowering the attack of this Tyranitar yet again. Now, that will still do very powerful damage to this Charizard, but the Charizard would probably live a -2 Rock Slide from this Tyranitar. And you have to wonder, can Charlie take advantage of the remaining turns of Trick Room? He's starting to run low, only a couple of turns left. Still has plenty of more turns of Sand or Light Screen. We know that Light Screen is actually going to last 3 more turns than is shown here, because we know the Light Clay is the held item of choice by the Grimmsnarl. And we just see a rotating Protect on this Rotom, just continuing to style. Tyranitar says, I don't think you're switching. I'm just going to try to take out this Charizard. A huge Rock Slide, and even with just a -1 attack, that Charizard does go down. Now, so that is a very good use of Trick Room, taking out that, removing the Charizard. But there's only 1 turn left, and the Garchomp is looking very threatening. The Farigiraf is low enough that it probably will not get another opportunity to go for a Trick Room, and you have to wonder, how is Charlie going to handle this Garchomp? In none of the games so far has he been able to click Reflect with his Grimmsnarl. So will he be able to pivot it in, go for a Reflect? This Rotom is at low HP. It did click Protect recently, so it could be taken out on this turn if it doesn't switch. Instead, we see the Tyranitar switching out, going into the Grimmsnarl. wanting to get that reflect up for the end and reset the attack drop on the Tyranitar. And instead, it's this Grimmsnarl that eats the attack drop that will impact Spirit Break, but not much else. We see a Protect coming out from the Garchomp that is going to hit into this Grimmsnarl and probably take it out. This Grimmsnarl was very low, and we see the Incineroar going down low as well. It's down at 7%. Now, I believe it does have a Citrus Berry it can munch on to not have to worry at all about the Sand Chip. And so it will stay up as the Trick Room ends. And so we have a Mega Camerupt that is not yet Mega Evolved and a Charizard with its Sash broken up against an Earthquake-happy Garchomp. After last battle, we saw the power of that Jolly Life Orb Garchomp. I have to imagine that Earthquake will just take out everything left on Charlie's side of the field. Once again, Jeremy adjusting from game 1 to just immediately handle and stall out the Trick Room that this Farigiraf has been putting out. We'll see if there are any tricks up Jeremy's sleeve, but I do think that is going to do it for this game 3. I don't see a way around just clicking Earthquake to win through the rest of this endgame. I really have to consider the wisdom of swapping out into your Grimmsnarl on that turn. Maybe predicting a Stomping Tantrum into the Farigiraf slot to allow a safe entry into the Grimmsnarl. We see the Earthquake come out, not impacting on the Rotom, preserving that Intimidate just in case. The Tyranitar does in fact live, so it's going to be able to get off one attack here. But I'm not sure what it could go for that would matter. It'll get a Rock Slide off that will take out the Rotom. Would have taken out the Incineroar as well, but we will see. The Sandstorm has faded. That's probably not going to matter long term. There are no special attackers left on Jeremy's side of the field, and so no Sandstream defense boost for the Tyranitar, it being a rock type. We see the attack drop that does matter on Tyranitar, and we see the Camerupt once again chipped, just like it was in game 1. This is about the range where it went down to an Earthquake last game. So perhaps we'll see a double protect here from the Tyranitar, from the Camerupt. I don't think Jeremy minds if this Earthquake takes out this Incineroar, but instead saying, I'm just going to go for Stomping Tantrum. I'm not bothered. Again, it's all over. I'm hearing the fat lady sing in the background. One Earthquake, you have to imagine, will take out all Pokemon on the field except for this Garchomp. So we'll see. Maybe it was a roll on the Camerupt. It does have the solid rock ability. That's actually something I didn't consider. Camerupt is not as weak to this Earthquake in its base form. I guess Charlie could be playing for some double protects on the Tyranitar and a non-mega Earth Power in order to try to finish off this Garchomp. We'll see if it's able to stand up to that or how the Garchomp chooses to play it. Tyranitar does go for a double protect. It does not work. We see the Earthquake come out, taking out everything left on the field, even with the solid rock ability. This base form Camerupt is able to survive. The Life Orb proving its value, really the item of choice for many Garchomps since it came back into the game when Regulation MB hit. And Jeremy, after struggling against the Trick Room in Game 1, adjusted his strategy to outstall it in Games 2 and 3, allowing him to win going forward. A massive congratulations to Jeremy, and best of luck to him and Charlie in future matches. So I'm going to step away for a bit, get something to drink, and let the stream keep running until we get a new match. Once again, congratulations to both players. I'll see you all in a little bit. Alright, so I apparently messed up. There's a way to make this public. Edit. Why is it always unlisted? Public. Alright, sorry about that, everyone. It's very frustrating. Alright, so I'm currently... Okay, so you will be able to go back and watch the match at the very least. I do apologize to everyone who is here. That was a mistake on my end. I forgot to... For some reason it goes unlisted when you start the stream. That is a little bit frustrating. I do apologize, but again, that should... You can go back and rewatch. This will probably be a little bit before the next round starts. I do need to get a drink though, so I am going to step out. So I'll be back in a moment. That should... You can go back and rewatch. This will probably be a little bit before the next round starts. I do need to get a drink though, so I am going to step out. So I'll be back in a moment. I do apologize for the delay. I have been informed of that we will have Ben S as one of our 2 players. So I'll take a little bit of time and go over his team. We have a rain team with Pelipper, Archaludon, Basculegion, Venusaur, Overquill, and Grimmsnarl. We don't know who the next player will be because there is still one more match going on in round 1, apparently. So a very standard rain team that will be coming up on stream. Nothing too surprising other than, of course, the Overquill running that Swift Swim, giving a different type profile than your standard Swift Swim Pokemon, with Dark and Poison. Again, I apologize for the delay, everyone. I have been informed that we have a weather war in Game 3 with Grimmsnarl screens just increasing the bulk on everything and increasing the time to KO. So, again, I do apologize for the inconvenience. Alright, that game is over. The slip is being signed. So, Professor Taylor, I should say, our tournament organizer, is working on getting everything set up. I do appreciate the viewer who has stuck around and apologize for the delay, but it looks like in the next few minutes we will be going into the next match. And we're back at 2 viewers. Welcome. Still waiting. Last I heard about 8 minutes ago was that the last match slip from round 1 is being signed. And there we go. We have Ben, and I don't have Smiley yet. I don't know who that is. But Ben, like I mentioned, I'll go back into it, has a rain team of Pelipper, Archaludon, Basculegion, Venusaur, Mega Venusaur that is, Overquill, and Grimmsnarl. The Pelipper is a defensive standard set. Archaludon is, again, a defensive standard set. No dragon coverage, interestingly enough. Basculegion is the Choice Scarf variant. Mega Venusaur is a very standard Mega Venusaur. Giga Drain, Sludge Bomb, Earth Power. Grimmsnarl is your standard, same as last game, Light Clay with Play Rough instead of Spirit Break, but Reflect, Light Screen, and Parting Shot. And Overquill being the Swift Swim abuser of choice with Life Orb, Protect, Throat Chop, I believe that's Poison Jab, and then finally Taunt. So, it looks like we have double rain. Ben on the right with the Pelipper that I just went over. We have Smiley on the left with Mega Swampert, presumably Mega Swampert, and presumably Mega Staraptor. We see the Politoed as the rain setter of choice. It's their own Archaludon, a Grimmsnarl of their own, and the Sinestcha for healing and support. So, very interesting, very similar teams. You have rain setters, rain abusers. You have Grimmsnarls on both ends. Going in, James is our player on the left. So we have, interestingly, Politoed having the Weather Ball for water coverage, Icy Wind for ice coverage, and then Protect, and then coverage move / interesting disruption of Perish Song, as opposed to something like Encore or Hypnosis. No trapping available from, I believe it was James's side of the field, but Perish Song, if you can take out a couple of Pokemon early, can just be a win condition. So we see Staraptor and Grimmsnarl from James into Grimmsnarl and Archaludon on Ben's side of the field. So, very interesting setup. Both Grimmsnarls can go for their screens of choice. No rain on the field, but it could be threatened. However, with Staraptor being shown from James's side, he might not have chosen to bring his Politoed, trusting in his opponent to set the rain. That can be a very powerful thing to do, but if no Mega Swampert available, we see the immediate Mega Staraptor coming out, gaining the contrary ability, and going for Protect. Wanting to make sure if it needs to switch next turn, it can do so whilst already being in its Mega form. Grimmsnarl coming out with Light Screen from James's side, and Play Rough going for big damage into the Grimmsnarl. Again, the special defense boosting Light Screen was chosen, not the physical defense boosting Reflect. However, there appears to be enough bulk invested or not enough attack invested on James and Ben's Grimmsnarls respectively to allow Ben's Grimmsnarl to KO, to two-hit KO James's Grimmsnarl. And I think I've said Grimmsnarl enough for a little bit, so let's talk about this Archaludon instead. So this Archaludon is going to be threatened by a super effective +1 close combat because the Parting Shot allows the Grimmsnarl on the prospective player's side to switch out while boosting the offenses. Now we do see a Reflect coming out to try to help this Archaludon stay up. And instead, the close combat is going to go into this Grimmsnarl instead of into the Archaludon. Interesting choice. We have a flash cannon coming out into this Archaludon. Again, such mirrored teams, but the Grimmsnarl on James's side swapping out, not wanting to take a super effective Fairy or Steel move and swapping into a shiny Archaludon. So now we have a Mega Staraptor at +1 in both defenses and its attack and special attack, but that isn't going to be relevant, ready to just run herd on everything that Ben has. How is Ben going to handle this Mega Staraptor at this point? An Electroshot would do good damage, but we have to imagine another close combat is going to come out and boost its defenses even more. So I'm not sure an Electroshot, if Pelipper were switched into, would be able to do it. There's a parting shot into the Archaludon, will lower its special attack. Any Draco Meteors, Electroshots, or Flash Cannons coming from it will be hindered. Here comes a Pelipper. This Pelipper, I believe, let me just double check the sheets I have been sent. This Pelipper is Citrus Berry, not Focus Sash, and the Archaludon with that Reflect is able to stay up. Here comes the Electroshot, getting a special attack boost, praying that it will be strong enough to take out this Staraptor, but with the +2 special defense, this is basically a neutrally effective move, and you see it does like about a third to the Staraptor. That's the power of the light screen that was previously set up, and we have a Draco Meteor even at -1 able to take out the opponent's Archaludon. Now this Archaludon that stays up on the field is at full health from leftovers, but is at -3 special attack. And if you're Ben, you have to really be thinking about how dangerous this Mega Staraptor is. It's at I believe it's at +2 in its defensives, +1 attack. Light screen is on the field, protecting it from the special moves that are on Ben's side of the field right now. And while the Archaludon isn't really offensively threatening at the moment with -3 in special attack, I don't see what this Pelipper and Venusaur combo want to accomplish here. The Venusaur, of course, is threatened by a Brave Bird, but the Staraptor could just try to take out one of these Pokemon, or could try to just continue setting up its defenses with close combat. Grimmsnarl switches out for the Archaludon, ready to get up more offensive boosts on the Staraptor or offensive drops on the opponent's side of the field. We see the Mega Evolution from the Venusaur giving a little bit more bulk, but Thick Fat is great against the fire weakness and fire weakness that Venusaurs usually struggle with, but don't do anything for the flying weakness. Now, very interesting double protects from both Megas, and that allows the Tailwind to come up from Pelipper. That is probably necessary. Now the Mega Staraptor isn't the fastest thing on the field. Yes, the Grimmsnarl is still there, is able to get a Prankster priority move off, whether it be a parting shot or whether it go for a different set of screens. Instead, going for the parting shot into the Pelipper, not wanting a Hurricane to be threatening into this Staraptor. But we'll see, it switches back into the Archaludon. The attack drops have been removed, and big damage coming out. We see a Sludge Bomb, but that does just over 10%. That poison damage is going to probably do more. And this Brave Bird, the Reflect manages to keep this Venusaur up, but that recoil is going to really threaten this Staraptor. And with this Hurricane, the Staraptor is going to fall. So that double up was effective, but at what cost? We have Archaludon on Ben's side down. The Mega Venusaur is very low. And now we have Grimmsnarl back out, ready to support We have a full HP, max special attack Archaludon ready to throw out some big damage or just chip down this Venusaur. You have to wonder, was this Mega Staraptor able to punch through enough of Ben's team to allow James to take the win? There's still a few more turns of Tailwind, a couple more, one more turn of Reflect, so a foul play from this Grimmsnarl won't be doing too much. Instead, going for a parting shot, wanting to weaken a potential Earth Power into this Archaludon, and we will see what the final Pokemon on James's side is. It is the Politoed, so he did bring his own Rain Setter. Alternatively, he could be trying to set up for that Perish Song endgame. If this Archaludon is able to take out the Venusaur, then it would just be one Pokemon left. We see a double up into the Archaludon. I believe Light Screen is still up, however, and the Archaludon is able to survive both of those attacks and go for an Electro Shot. So choosing to go for the Pelipper with open team sheets, you know it has Wide Guard as its protection move of choice, not Protect. So this is a completely safe Electro Shot, getting the special attack boost onto this Archaludon, taking out the Pelipper, and bringing it down to 2 Pokemon remaining. So you have to wonder, how does James want to play this? Does he want to go for a Perish Trap endgame? Or does he think that he doesn't need to and can just whittle down both the Venusaur and the Grimmsnarl? Both are low. There is, I believe, one more turn of Tailwind. Yes, there is, but I'm not sure that there's enough offense left with a -1 Mega Venusaur and the Play Rough Grimmsnarl. I'm not sure if they're going to be able to muscle through this Politoed and a +2 defense Archaludon. There's a Giga Drain not doing much into this Politoed, giving the Venusaur a little bit of chip healing. And there's the Play Rough into the Politoed, hoping for crits, hoping to take it down before it can go for a very, very scary parting Perish Song, rather. But again, we could just see a Weather Ball or Icy Wind to follow up after this Flash Cannon. Now, with the Giga Drain healing, the Venusaur is able to stay up, but that speed drop and the Tailwind going away, I believe the Tailwind goes away on this turn. Yes, there it is, going away, and Ben just knows that it's a lost cause at this point and forfeit. So very well played by James here, getting into positions to allow the Mega Staraptor to just run rampant over this team. And if you're Ben, you have to consider how you want to handle that going forward, even with the Tailwind being set up to eventually chip down that defense-boosted Mega Staraptor. It took so much effort to take it down that James was able to position the rest of his team to handle the battered remnants of Ben's field. So, as we wait for them to adjust, Ben's going to have to seriously consider how he wants to move going forward. So, as we jump in, we will see how this goes. What adjustments can Ben make? I do like considering the Overquill a fast taunt into Grimmsnarl. You won't outspeed the Prankster, but with Poison Jab for super effective damage, taunt to shut it down, and you would be able to outspeed the Staraptor with Swift Swim. That is something very valid to consider in the game going forwards. I'm not sure, since James has shown he's willing to bring the Staraptor instead of the Swampert, it might be better to have a different Pokemon to counter, and we see he does go for it. We see the Grimmsnarl and the Staraptor coming out immediately. We see the Intimidate going down onto the Overquill, so its offensives, even with the Adamant Nature and Life Orb, will be diminished, but we do have it being the current fastest Pokemon on the field. That taunt can really shut down what Grimmsnarl goes for after this turn 1. So I'm very interested to see. With open team sheets, of course, Grimmsnarl's aware that there is a taunt on the other side of the field. Will he just try to immediately parting shot out into a different matchup? But no, instead, Staraptor is wanting to preserve that Intimidate, seeing the barbed menace on Ben's side of the field, switches out, doesn't want to risk a poison move going into that slot, but instead it goes into the Grimmsnarl, and that Intimidate keeps Grimmsnarl up. Absolutely massive, that Intimidate there. But a double up into this Grimmsnarl saying, hey, I don't want any part of you going for parting shots, you going for reflects or life screens. I think I can just take you out. And he is able to take out the Grimmsnarl. James is now on the back foot. Now, we do see another Intimidate come out from the Staraptor. We do know that this Overquill does definitely appreciate having a large attack stat to take advantage of the Trick Room, of the Swift Swim, rather. And so now you have to think, okay, I don't have my support Pokemon available anymore. What am I going to do? Overquill gets out of there, not wanting any part of being at -2 attack, and the Pelipper switches out as well into the Archaludon of his own. We'll see what was clicked here. Staraptor Mega Evolve saying, I need to start setting up close combat boosts immediately to bulk through the rest of this battle. Instead going for Tailwind, perhaps predicting matching Tailwinds or just wanting to handle the Swift Swim. An Electroshock comes out, but you have to imagine it will go into what is now the Archaludon, giving it a stamina boost to better survive a close combat from this Staraptor. And yeah, Archaludon eats that fairly convincingly, has leftovers of its own, getting back to over 3/4 HP. So, Staraptor, we do know that it may not be able to take out this Venusaur, Mega Venusaur, with Brave Bird. Last match, it was at +1 attack, but it was at minus... it was also attacking the Mega Venusaur with a Reflect, so roughly canceling each other out. I'm sure that someone like DeWobblefett could give me the exact numbers, but I don't have time to do the math in my head for what the cost-benefit of that is. But I'll say they roughly cancel each other out here. So will this Mega Staraptor just go for close combat into the Archaludon as it goes for Protect? That's what Ben expects. And it does go for close combat straight into that slot, not getting any defensive boosts. We see another Electroshock coming out, wanting to power up this Archaludon. It's now very scary at +2 special attack, but we'll see if he went for it. It does go into this Venusaur, doing moderately good damage, over 25%, even though it's resisted, but an Earth Power comes out. And wow, this is either not an especially strong Venusaur, or I missed a light screen somewhere, because that did less than I anticipated. Leftovers continuing to go up on both Archaludons. I did miss the Grimmsnarl getting up the Trick Room turn 1, that's on me. Or the light screen turn 1, that's on me. So both of these Pokemon not overly concerned with special attacks coming out right now. But this Archaludon, I'm not sure if it will go down to a close combat. It is at +1 physical defense right now. And this Venusaur doesn't have any Sleep Powder shenanigans to threaten status with. So it's just got Giga Drain, Sludge Bomb, and Earth Power. And we saw how little that Earth Power did into this Archaludon. It's going to take a few turns to be able to take out either Pokemon on the field. The Archaludon switches out, going into the Staraptor to take a close combat well. There's the close combat going into that slot. Ben makes the prediction, but that still does 30% to this Pelipper. It's still being threatened. A Draco Meteor comes out, sacrificing both of those special attack races from the Electroshots just to remove this Venusaur. And we're finally tied 3 Pokemon apiece. Now then, that makes this very interesting. There's only a couple of more turns left of rain, which means that this Overquill, should it come back out, will not have a speed advantage for overly long. I'll need to check. I've lost track of the Tailwind turns, but I think Tailwind is still up on James's side of the field. That does mean that the Swift Swim advantage in speed is mostly neutralized. You have to assume that there is some speed investment on this Overquill, so it probably will outspeed the Archaludon, but I'm not sure if it will the Staraptor. Yes, one more turn of Tailwind and only one more turn of Rain, so both of these speed boosts will go away this at the end of this turn. To counteract that, we see the Archaludon switch in, and to allow the Rain to be reset up later, a close combat into the Overquill. And yeah, with no attack drops, but with the defense boost, this Poison Jab isn't going to do as much as you want into the Staraptor. The Staraptor being at +2 defense and special defense at the moment, just setting up and really starting to go take away the game. We see backed up to +1 special attack. This Archaludon going for an Electro Shot, trying to snipe the Pelipper, but the Pelipper switching out, going into the Archaludon of his own. The Rain is now gone, so that does mean it can, one of Ben's 2 Pokemon can switch out and take advantage of the Rain being set back up, but I'm not sure who you'd best believe benefits from that. The Quillionaire would be able to go first, but doesn't have a lot of move options that are effective at this moment. We saw how little Poison Jab did into Staraptor, but he's going to go for it. Maybe trying to use the Rain to snipe a Tailwind and go for Taunt before it can happen. No, going for a Poison Jab, hoping for a crit, maybe a Poison, maybe both. But no dice on that front. The Overquill is now very low. One more hit left of Poison, one more Poison Jab hit left. We see a Flash Cannon come out into the Overquill. Now it's just fainted, and with the Tailwind up on James's side of the field, he has the speed advantage for the rest of the match, you have to assume. I don't think there's anything that can be done. A close combat into the roughly half health Archaludon, an Electro Shot into the Pelipper before either of them can move. You have to imagine that will be curtains in this game. We'll see if Ben has anything cooking up his sleeves, but I think we're about to see a 2-0 victory for for James rather. Staraptor wanting to be entirely safe, clicking Protect as Archaludon goes for Electro Shot, wanting to say, hey, I know that this is a guaranteed KO. I'm not going to risk a crit. I'm not going to risk you going for Protect and maybe being able to survive this close combat somehow. I'm going to wait for a double up onto you later. Here comes an Electro Shot from this Archaludon on Ben's side of the field, getting a +1 special attack boost. But we'll see. It did not go into James's Archaludon for a little bit of chip, just going straight into the Staraptor. I think what... yeah, I think Ben just said, the game's lost, I'm heading out. And so congratulations to James, taking that 2-0 victory, continuing. I know Ben was undefeated, but I do believe that that might just allow him to be at the top of our standings here. So, very well done. Looks like the room closed. I will try to get us back into that room, but we will be going on pause until the next round. So thank you all very much, and I will talk to you later. Alright, I've been sent the room code. Let me find it. And then I will blind the stream. Oh, that's actually going to be super annoying. Alright, I won't blind the stream. Don't tell Taylor. Alright, hopefully I didn't miss too much there. That's what happens when I'm desperately trying to scarf down some lunch. Alright, so coming into this, I do apologize for the delay. We have Liam on the left with a very standard Mega Floette, Mega Charizard Y team with Garchomp, Basculegion, Whimsicott, and King Gambit. Meanwhile, we see Matt with an interesting team, Snow, with normal Swampert, base form, no Mega, Sneasler, Dragonite, not Mega, Alolan Ninetales, Mega Gengar, and Incineroar. So it looks like we've seen Liam being put on the back foot here. Charizard and a Choice Scarf Basculegion in the back. This Basculegion does have a very powerful move available to it in that last respects. 150 base power currently. Easily able to take out either of these Pokemon on Matt's side of the field. And with Charizard being able to outspeed the Dragonite, depending on how they're trained, this could be a reverse double KO from Liam here. So, you have to imagine, with the Gengar already revealed on Matt's side of the field, you have to imagine Last Respects will be the lock-in of choice. With the Sun, you probably don't want to lock into one of your many water moves. The Sneasler goes for Protect, just wanting to scout out what is this Basculegion going to go for. As an extreme speed comes out into the Charizard, doing good damage. That Life Orb Dragonite able to do massive damage, and instead we see an Aqua Jet being the move that this Archaludon locks into. Very interesting. We see a Heat Wave coming out from this Charizard, is going to take out the Dragonite and make this a 3 versus 2 matchup. But there is a Mega Gengar in the back. It will definitely outspeed the Charizard. I have to imagine it will outspeed the Charizard. There's a 30 speed point difference between the two. Even with fully investment versus no investment, that's still going to be a hard bridge to clear. And this Mega Charizard, according to, is modest, so it's not timid, so it could be more of a bulk in power invested to get Mega Gengar instead of a speedy one. This Gengar, despite coming out earlier in the match, does not appear to have taken any damage, nor Mega Evolved, so probably just swapped out turn 1. So we have to wonder, what are you going to go for here? The only thing we know for sure is happening is an Aqua Jet, probably into that slot the Sneasler swapped out of, and there's a Ninetales, getting rid of the Sun, making this Heat Wave much less threatening, but also boosting the damage of the Aqua Jet. So, this Gengar Mega Evolves. Let's see what happens. Oh, I have my team sheets confused. I do apologize. I thought this was a different one I looked at. This is Mystic Water. So a big turn, big damage coming out into the Gengar and Ninetales. The Sun is gone though, but again, as this is not a choice-locked Basculegion, instead is Mystic Water, that does allow the multitude of water moves, the Wave Crash and the Aqua Jet, to do good damage. The Charizard goes for a Protect, wanting to keep itself up even without the Sun boosting its moves. This Aqua Jet comes out into the Ninetales, and now it becomes a question of, did you read the Protect correctly? And it does appear that the Protect, Liam got the Protect correct, and his Charizard stays up for another day. The Sneasler is out, can go for a Fake Out, into the... No fake out on this Sneasler. My apologies. It's Unburdened with Focus Sash, Dire Claw, Close Combat, Rock Slide, Protect. So it can protect itself on this turn. Maybe not with a fake out, but with a Protect. Can maneuver around an Aqua Jet coming out from this Basculegion. So... but chooses to not do that, saying, hey, I'm going to take out this Charizard if you don't click Aqua Jet. We see a Sludge Bomb. It is a modest Mega Gengar, but that isn't quite enough to take out this Charizard, and that allows the Charizard to get the final KO with the Heat Wave. Very good. Coming into this game, it looked dire for Liam here, but he was able to pull it back with the power of Mega Charizard Y and Basculegion. And that's why this rough core of Pokemon are just some of the best in the format and one of the best teams in the format. People just throw them together. It's not on the level of chalk or anything like that, but it is still something that every player going into Worlds here in the next couple of weeks at the end of the month is going to have to be aware of. And Liam piloting it and showing just why and how it can be that terrifying. And so here we go into game 2, actually getting into the start of this game. I apologize. I tried to steal some time to grab some food, but game 2 took much less time than game 1. And I did not anticipate that correctly. So we have to see what kind of adjustments. Again, it looked like as we came in, Matt had the upper hand in that game 1, but the end game just kind of got away from him. That turn where he got the prediction wrong, if he had Shadow Balled instead of Sludge Bombed and swapped his targets, it would have been much better. We see an immediate Alolan Ninetales coming out, threatening this core of Whimsicott and Garchomp tremendously. This Alolan Ninetales does have Blizzard, does have Icy Wind for spread damage, and does the Garchomp have a Poison Jab or I suppose a Rock Slide in order to try to get super effective damage onto this Alolan Ninetales? Looking at the team sheet, it does have Rock Slide, so a Tailwind Rock Slide, you could go for that and hope for a flinch. That's still very risky, but it is something you could do. Instead choosing, hey, I want to protect this Garchomp. I'm going into the Charizard, making this 4-time super effective hit into a neutral hit. Meanwhile, here comes the Mega Gengar going for incredibly powerful Sludge Bombs or Shadow Balls into this into Liam's side of the field. We see a Tailwind come out, just wanting to secure a speed advantage on future turns. As the Ninetales goes for Blizzard, that is going to be enough to do good damage onto the Charizard and take the Whimsicott almost down to its sash, and a freeze on the Charizard. That's massively unfortunate. Shadow Ball does come out into the Whimsicott, so that Tailwind was all it was able to do, but suddenly we have a speed advantage on Liam's side of the field, which means this Garchomp can come out and attempt to do big damage. Notably, it can go... we can see a Rock Slide plus Mega Evolution to remove the defense boost from the Ninetales. Ninetales, wanting to preserve the weather for later, switches out into the Dragonite. So if an Earthquake was clicked, at least it will be immune, if not this Mega Gengar. Charizard goes for a Mega Evolution, but immediately freezes after the animation due to the freeze effect. However, if this Earthquake is able to take out this Mega Gengar, and it is, the switches are back on the table for Liam, and this does give the Charizard a chance to break out of this freeze condition and go for good damage. It does not break out, but with the Pokemon Champions changes, it's only got 1 or 2 more turns of guaranteed freeze left in it. However, this does mean we can get rid of the sun and put the snow back up if we choose to switch into the Alolan Ninetales, but instead we have Sneasler come out saying, hey, go for Earthquake, give me the speed boost. That will allow me to outspeed you under Tailwind. Dragonite there saying, hey, I'm not really scared of what you have. You didn't unfreeze, and I can just extreme speed or Dragon Claw, even though I'm not multi-scale, I'm inner focus instead. This Dragon Claw will probably just take out your Garchomp with the Life Orb chip already there, and with the Life Orb on my end. Here comes an extreme speed instead, trying to wear down this Charizard to win the Weather War. Dragon Claw comes out into this Dragonite, does immediately take it out, so maybe a multi-scale there would have kept it alive and allowed it to go for something other than extreme speed there. Charizard stays frozen. Not the end of the world here, because it wouldn't have been able to do anything into this Protect anyway. And now Matt's on the back foot on his last two Pokemon. We'll see. The Sneasler still does have a Focus Sash intact. The Ninetales is at full HP and has a Choice Scarf. So I don't think that will allow it to outspeed either Pokemon on Liam's side of the field. An Earthquake comes out, wanting to do good damage into both of these Pokemon, but with the Focus Sash and with the Snow defense boost on the Alolan Ninetales, they both will survive. Notably, that does mean Sneasler gets the speed boost and will allow it to, with Unburden, and allow it to outspeed this Charizard. It goes straight for Dire Claw to finish it off, and you have to imagine a Blizzard or Freeze Dry is coming out here. Goes for Blizzard. Not sure how much I love that play. A Freeze Dry might have been slightly better in the end if Basculegion's at the end, the last Pokemon standing. A Freeze Dry might have been a little bit more damage into it. We do see that Basculegion, and it's Basculegion versus the world. So Sneasler's at 1 HP, but you will need an Aqua Jet to take it out. However, this Ninetale, it comes down, I think, to, do you predict the Protect correctly? I think you have 2 or 3 turns to survive Blizzards from this Ninetales. Ninetales, not the strongest Pokemon, even with Blizzard being a powerful move, but you have to imagine a single Last Respects will take it out. But there is an actual move to do good damage into this. Goes for Dire Claw, going for Dire Claw shenanigans here. No Aqua Jet into that slot, so Dire Claw plus Blizzard doesn't even do half to the fish. The typing on this Basculegion doing absolute wonders here. We see a Last Respects come out into the Ninetales, and suddenly we're in a very dire situation, if you'll pardon the Sneasler pun. Sneasler has to think, do I go for Dire Claw Sleeper Paralysis, or do I go for Rock Slide flinches? You need multiples to win, but it's a moot point because this Basculegion just knows Aqua Jet and is able to take out the Sneasler before it can do anything. Matt read the play correctly, but gambled on Dire Claw, bailing him out there in the end game. And Liam is able to win that set 2-0. Congratulations to him. So congratulations to Liam. I know he was 1-0 at the start of round 1, at the end of round 1, and so he won here as well. So he's at worst 2-1, possibly 3-0, looking very good. So for those, I've been informed that we will have 4 rounds of Swiss and then a top 4. So Liam is looking very good, very likely to hit that top 4. But now we will just wait and see the end here, and I will leave you all with this background music for now. Thank you. All right, so we have players getting into the room, setting up. We have a mixture of old and new. So we have Ben returning from earlier with the Pelipper Mega Venusaur Rain team we saw. That's where I got the Choice Scarf Basky Legion confused. But on our left, we have Tyler coming in with a very interesting team. Mega Dragonite, Raichu Y, Lycanroc Dusk, Basky Legion, Farigiraf, and King Gambit. So, now, it is interesting to note that this Farigiraf, despite there not being any manual rain setters or any automatic rain setters, like Pelipper or the Politoed we saw earlier today, we do have Rain Dance as a move set of choice on this Farigiraf instead of something like Hyper Voice. So that is very interesting. Probably not going to be clicked this game because there is a Pelipper on Ben's side of the field, but Tyler does appreciate having that rain for the Basky Legion, boosting the damage of its water moves, and in other matchups, helping the King Gambit with a fire weakness. Or just resetting Sand or Sun in a way that most players wouldn't quite be ready for. So both players are setting up their picks. You have to wonder, will we see the Raichu or the Dragonite this game? Not a lot of electric types on the opposing side of the field to block a Zap Cannon Paralysis. And we see an immediate Overquill and Grimmsnarl. So this is very interesting. The Raichu, of course, can go for a Fake Out, but is so frail that the Quillfish or the Grimmsnarl can probably take it out with one of their stab moves of choice. Meanwhile, we do have the Lycanroc Dusk. It does have the Rock Slide to go for flinches, but the Close Combat is only neutral into both of these opponents' Pokemon, so probably will not be able to take either one of them out without serious support. Alternatively, we could just say, hey, I'm going to Mega Evolve immediately and just start clicking Zap Cannon and spreading Paralysis into your team. But the Raichu says, you know what, I'm just going to play it safe, go for Protect, not going to Fake Out, not going to do anything. And the Overquill going to respect the Fake Out threat and just, hey, say, I'm going to let you set up a Reflect, Grimmsnarl, and just protect me in future turns. A Close Combat comes out, goes into the Overquill, unfortunately. So this turn ends with multiple Protects going out, a Reflect being set up, and no actual damage being done. So now you have to worry, okay, is this Grimmsnarl just going to switch out, turn on the Rain, and then outspeed, will Overquill then outspeed both of my Pokemon? Raichu Y is incredibly fast at 130 base speed, but with a Swift Swim Pokemon, you have to imagine if Rain comes out, it will be faster. Here comes the Raichu Y, threatening big electric type damage. 100% accurate Zap Cannons can do massive damage, but a Parting Shot goes into the Raichu immediately, lowering the offensive capabilities of that Pokemon. And you have to imagine a Pelipper will be coming out here. Exactly, there's the Pelipper setting up the Rain, letting the Overquill go first, goes for a Throat Chop, and Raichu not bulky enough to survive that. You have to wonder, what is the Lycanroc going to go for now? It does go for a Rock Slide, is able to do some decent chip into the Pelipper and the Overquill, but not as much as it maybe would have liked. The Tough Claw's not activating on a move like Rock Slide, and now that the Pelipper is in, you're always scared to click it again because Wide Guard can just completely nullify the attack. So that's a Mega Pokemon down on Tyler's side of the field, and he's bringing in the King Gambit, able to, honestly, just a fantastic answer into the Overquill, completely ignoring its poison stab, not taking much from the dark stab throat chop, and just able to handle it. I respect the One Piece reference for the name, and now we have to say, okay, well, maybe maybe the Pelipper can just start whittling it down with weather balls. We see the Excel Rock come out, but this is a very physically bulky Pelipper, and it survives that, gets the leftovers recovery, and will be able to go later. We see a throat chop coming into the Lycanroc. It does hold a sash, so that wasn't any threat of taking it out, but we have a weather ball going into the a weather ball goes into and does over half to the King Gambit, and so all Pokemon are just trading moves and taking a lot of damage out from each other. So now we have to consider this Overquill is the fastest thing on the field with the rain, but there is multiple fields of priority that are available. An Excel Rock plus Sucker Punch could take out this Overquill, and that's something that Ben is going to have to consider on this turn. Do you go for an attack on that Pokemon? And we see the Sucker Punch come out into that slot, but we don't see an Excel Rock into that slot. So this the Lycanroc goes down, unfortunately for Tyler. The Quillian there only has one attack left, but we're about to see a 1v4 come out. What Pokemon could Tyler have in his repertoire to take out all four of his opponent's team? Of course, I would be remiss to not mention the Grimmsnarl turn 1 getting that Reflect Off has allowed all of these Rock Slides, Low Kicks, Excel Rocks to not do as much damage as possible. That's why the Pelipper was able to live along with its bulk investment. So you have to wonder, we see more One Piece references with that name. Emperor Kaido hits the field, but Basculegion, for all their strengths, and there are many, do not have spread damage. Not that you necessarily want it into a Pelipper, but it is very threatened by a Throat Chop from this Overquill, and it's just going to take it out with an Aqua Jet before anything can happen. We see a Tailwind come out saying, hey, I'm not going to let you have any chance of outspeeding me without priority in future turns. And here comes the Venusaur, setting up the Tailwind for that Venusaur. Giga Drain will be able to allow it to outspeed and KO. And Ben gets the win here. And Tyler is down one match in this best of 3. Needs to find some adjustments to turn this around in future, in the next match. So looking forward, how would we consider adjusting? So that Raichu Y was not able to get anything going. Unfortunately, did not make the correct moves on that first turn. Went for a Protect instead of trying to fake out into one of the slots. Lost the mind game there. Again, just kind of coin flips. Do I go for Protect? Do I attack? That allowed a free Reflect to get set up that really mitigate everything the King Gambit and the Lycanroc could do in future turns. So will he still go for it? Will he try to bring his other Mega? We do have the Mega Dragonite, and while it doesn't have a Hurricane to take advantage of the rain, Dragon Pulse and Dragon Pulse will still do a lot of damage and will give him an option to match Tailwinds. So now we have a very interesting lead from Tyler. Double Mega lead. Dragonite and Raichu can both go for Mega Evolutions here. Raichu, regardless of whether or not it is going for a Mega, does have that Fake Out capabilities, But this Dragonite, the only flying move it has access to is Tailwind, and so it can't threaten super effective damage into this Venusaur. Yes, it has Heat Wave, but we see the Mega Evolution giving the Venusaur Thick Fat, making it neutral to these Fire-type attacks that the Dragonite can throw out. Here comes the Fake Out into the Venusaur. Are we going to see screens? We do see a light screen come out from the Grimmsnarl that does allow this Dragonite to go for Tailwind and say, hey, I'm not letting you get any Swift Swim shenanigans on me. I'm not letting you get any Tailwind shenanigans of your own against me. I am going to have the speed advantage going forward. And now you have to consider, okay, how will that benefit Tyler going forward? The light screen is up against 2 special attackers. The only physical move is that Fake Out that was clicked last turn. Are you going to just gamble on paralysis hacks in order to take out this Venusaur and Grimmsnarl? We see the Raichu immediately switch out, preserving it for later, going into the King Gambit. Here comes a Heat Wave. Again, not doing very much. The light screen, the lack of a Mega, and the Thick Fat on the Venusaur, that burn chip damage is going to do more than that Heat Wave in just a couple of turns. An Earth Power into the Raichu slot. Good. No reason to go for something like a Sludge Bomb. Earth Power super effective against the Raichu. And neutral or super effective against everything on Tyler's team because the Dragonite is already out. We see the Play Rough coming out. This King Gambit, is hung on after that switch in, but is in fact much reduced in HP. It does have enough for 1 Sucker Punch if it chooses to go for it, but instead we see a Parting Shot into this Dragonite, not Mega Evolved, so doesn't have a special attack increase from the Mega Evolution, now at -1. You have to imagine, here comes the Pelipper to further reduce the potency of any Fire-type attacks. But instead, reading into that, going for a Dragon Pulse into the Venusaur, doing substantially more damage with a critical hit, absolutely massive. And with the Tailwind, we see the Kingambit go first before the Venusaur, getting another critical hit into this Pelipper, but not going for a Dark-type attack, going for an Iron Head, trying to take out the Grimmsnarl. And the Earth Power is going to be enough to take out this Kingambit, but that does mean Raichu can come back out onto the field if it so desires and threaten big damage. So we have Eneru and Monkey D. Luffy on the same side for once. Again, this is One Piece themed name. These One Piece themed names are just never cease to amuse me. And now we have to consider, okay, well, I have the speed advantage now, and your Venusaur, because of that crit, is low enough that another Dragon Pulse probably takes it out, especially with that burn chip, and the Raichu is threatening a Zap Cannon into the Pelipper. Suddenly, unless you start switching out your Pokemon, you're looking at a potential double KO this turn. We see the immediate Mega Evolution from the Mega Raichu, getting that No Guard ability, making sure that it will not miss the Zap Cannon, famously an inaccurate move. Here it comes, going straight into the Pelipper, and the Pelipper, as we saw earlier, does not have Protect, only Wide Guard, so it can't do anything in the face of that attack. Meanwhile, a Dragon Pulse comes out into the Venusaur, does not take it out, the Light Screen proving its value, that -1 special attack proving its value, and the Bulk naturally invested on this Venusaur proving its value. However, with the Giga Drain healing, it does survive the burn, but the Giga Drain is not enough to take out this Raichu. And now, without the Pelipper, you have to expect that this Overquill is going to take advantage of the last little bit of rain when there is no more Tailwind up. Now, the Dragonite does have multi-scale, is able to stay pretty healthy on this turn, could go for another Tailwind to make sure that Tyler has the speed advantage going for the rest of the game, because the rain runs out in 3 turns. which is 1 turn less than a potential Tailwind would go for. And Raichu, knowing that it just needs a little bit of time, is going to go for Protect. But here comes a Taunt, ready to stop that Tailwind potentially, and does. We see a Giga Drain into the Mega Raichu, trying to finish it off, and the only thing that was really accomplished that turn was a little bit of Burn Chip onto the Venusaur, but Venusaur's fine with that. Yes, it probably will go down to any attack now, but this Qwilfish still has 2 more turns of being the fastest thing on the field, and the Dragonite is just completely stuck in a pickle. You have to imagine a Throat Chop goes into this Mega Raichu now, and it does, causing it to faint. But this Dragonite could go for a Dragon Pulse into, and does go for a Dragon Pulse into this Venusaur, saying, hey, I don't want to let you do anything. I want to force this into a 2 versus 2 here at the end game. And now there's only 1 turn of Rain left. Depending on what's in the back for Tyler, he could stall it out with Protect. There's the Lycanroc, and there's the Grimmsnarl we saw at the start of the match. So now it comes down to, can this Grimmsnarl set up the defenses, lower the offenses of Tyler's team enough for this Overqwil to be able to finish the game off? We'll have to wait and see. Light Screen still has a few more turns. Yes, 2 more turns of Light Screen. So I expect a Reflect will come out as we see a double Protect. No, just a singular Protect from the Lycanroc, trying to preserve the Sash. As the Rain is up, makes the call correct. Tyler makes the call correctly, is able to get a Dragon Pulse off into the Qwilfish, or the Overqwil, gets it down under 60% HP. That is important for Life Orb recoil reasons. As Life Orb always does 10%, that means 6 more attacks at most can be landed by this Qwilfish, or by this Overqwil. And so now there are 2 screens up. You have to imagine, you have to wonder, is this are we going to see an attack come out from the Grimmsnarl, or are we just going to see parting shots to lower the offenses of Tyler's Pokemon? Here comes a Protect from the Overqwil, saying, hey, I think you're going to try to take me out, and not falling for it immediately. We see a Rock Slide going out. Not going to do very much, but could get a flinch. That would be absolutely massive here. Here comes a Heat Wave, again, protected against and dodged by the... Oh, that's brutal. Heat Wave was dodged, Rock Slide didn't flinch, and the Play Rough didn't hit. So the Light Screen fades, but the Focus Sash is broken on this Lycanroc, and you have to imagine a Light Screen is about to be set right back up. Now, the Lycanroc is the fastest Pokemon on the field right now, and I do believe the Dragonite will have a natural speed advantage. So the Light Screen is reset, barriers activated. Here comes a close combat into the Overqwil, gets it down to 19 HP. Will a Heat Wave be able to take it out? Probably after this Life Orb recoil. Again, getting that Overqwil down to 19% means so much. Only 1 more Life Orb hit can do anything, and the Overqwil does go down. But we see that this... We're really looking for a crit here. I think we need 2 Play Roughs to take out this Dragonite with the multi-scale. So first Heat Wave comes out. Will we see a crit? Will we see a burn? We don't see either. A Play Rough connects, and 1 more will take out this Dragonite. So it comes down to, do we see a crit or a burn? I think we need to see one of the 2. Crit, burn, miss on Play Rough. If one of those happen, I believe Tyler will be able to take this game away. There's the burn. It will probably get a chance to survive here. Here's a Play Rough, and with the burn, the Dragonite stays up. There's 1 more chance. Unfortunately, I think 1 more Play Rough will be able to do it, and I don't think an additional Heat Wave will take out at -1 attack and with the Light Screen up. I think this Grimmsnarl is safe for 1 more attack, but we could see a crit. We could see a miss, but instead going for a protect, saying, hey, if I get that little bit more burn chip damage, maybe this heat wave will take out. I mean, it certainly doesn't hurt your odds. Now, the real question is, do you gamble on a double protect? That's a bit of a gamble because you're either banking on getting the double protect or the play rough miss. Instead goes for heat wave, and the play rough does not miss connecting. That end game was very, very close, but Ben is able to clutch it out there at the end with a burn and heavily weakened Grimmsnarl. Congratulations to Ben, and good game to Tyler. So we are going straight into top 4 after this round. I have to imagine that Ben might have been able to claw his way back into that top 4 with that win. I know earlier he had wins under his belt despite having the loss shown on stream earlier. So I will let you all go for the moment. I will reach out to Professor Taylor, who is running the event, and see who our top 4 teams are. From what I've been told so far, I think we're going to see some familiar faces to those in the scene, but not to those who might be coming into the stream for the first time. So I can't wait to show you all that. But for now, I'll let you guys go and talk to you shortly when we hit our top 4. All right, so we are having a round 3 up against a round 1 match. James versus Charlie. So Charlie coming back after that game round 1 loss. We will be seeing more of the Mega Camerupt this time up against a Rain team. So we'll have to see how that goes. But that's what I've been informed so far. All right, so we have Charlie joining the room. Probably will hop into Battle Court number 2 as opposed to number 1. It looks like Tyler is still just kind of hanging out in there after the last round of Swiss. Oh, there we go. And there is James. Looks like they're about to get started. All right, so we have sand versus rain here. So what are we looking at specifically? So from James's side, you have the rain, obviously, that does pretty well into the Camerupt and the Tyranitar. The Mega Swampert here, clicking Earthquake, can fulfill a very similar role to that Garchomp in the last match that we saw Charlie in. So Charlie needs to be wary of that. Alternatively, I'm not sure if you want to bring Staraptor here. Yes, you could potentially get an attack boost from an un-Mega Evolved Mawile, but that Play Rough will be able to do good damage into you, will be able to, and that Mawile is just a nightmare for the Grimmsnarl to handle. So we'll see if we see a harder rain slant from James than we did the last time we saw him perform. So, you know, I was talking all that, and then immediately we see the Staraptor Grimmsnarl lead again. Now, very interestingly, we do see the Farigiraf lead along with the Primarina. We didn't see this earlier, but Primarina, that Fairy Stab, will be super effective into the Grimmsnarl and into the Mega Evolved Staraptor if that is what James decides to do on this turn 1. Now, Grimmsnarl absolutely can set up screens, but can't parting shot into Charlie's side of the field. We see a light screen immediately come out, reducing the damage from any fairy attacks that this Primarina goes for. It goes for a Moonblast straight away, hits this Archaludon, and even with the light screen, that still does almost half to it. Primarina showing why it's the strongest starter with that Life Orb, and we see a Trick Room come out immediately. Not wanting to risk any Tailwind games with the Staraptor, not wanting to risk any Swift Swim, Swampert shenanigans that could have happened, potentially. Saying, hey, Primarina is now the fastest thing on the field. How are you going to handle it? So I am going to scroll up in the Discord and find Charlie's sheet. And here it is. So Primarina is a Calm Mindset, Hyper Voice Moonblast for offensive options. So you do have to worry about a Politoed switch in and a Electro Shot from this Archaludon, but the Farigiraf, after setting up here, doesn't have much to do with Hyper Voice and Side Shock as its offensive moves. We see the Camerupt immediately come out saying, I think I've got a turn before you start threatening big water damage. Here's a Calm Mind from the Primarina saying, hey, even if you go for Electro Shot and switch into a water type, I'll probably be able to survive. Here's a Foul Play going for super effective damage into the Farigiraf, but the Camerupt says no. And suddenly we have a bit of a situation. We have a +1 Primarina and a Camerupt that's ready to not literally erupt as in go for the move Eruption, but it's the fastest thing on the field. And while you could see a Parting Shot come out from the Grimmsnarl, if you predict incorrectly and a Farigiraf comes in, you've just ceded so much momentum. And either of the Pokemon on Charlie's side of the field are threatening an Oko into at least the Archaludon and maybe the Grimmsnarl as well. The Archaludon immediately switches out, goes back into Staraptor saying, all right, well, at least I won't be hit by an Earth Power. The attack drop doesn't matter in any capacity. We don't see the Farigiraf come in. So here's the Mega Camerupt threatening big damage. We'll see what he chose to go for, though. And we see a Parting Shot, so that does lower the special attack of the Primarina back down to neutral. And what are we going to see the switch-in be for this? And we do see the Politoed come out, setting up the rain, weakening any Fire-type attacks. The Earth Power does go into the Staraptor slot. Great prediction from James, and a Moonblast is now neutrally powerful into this Politoed. Politoed actually has a fair bit of special defense and seems to be invested in that fairly well to take a neutral special attack Life Orb Primarina hit. And now we have to consider, what are we going to see going forward? This Politoed is threatening massive damage into the Camerupt, but the Camerupt is still the fastest thing on the field and still has an incredibly powerful Earth Power. But to counteract that, we do see the Staraptor still on the field, still hasn't Mega Evolved, and we know that there's no Mega Swampert in the back. It's just the Staraptor. So the Camerupt switches, wanting to protect itself. We get rid of the rain. We send out the Tyranitar. Notably, if the Staraptor went for close combat, that would have been massive. But reading the switch, the Archaludon comes out. And we see a Moonblast come out into the Politoed, just trying to chip it down a little bit more. Let the Weather Warp be one. One more Moonblast will do it. Except for the Citrus Berry, recovering the Politoed as if it had never been hit. Now we have a Rock-type Weather Ball coming out into the Tyranitar that it takes very well. But again, the sash is just chipped off from this Tyranitar like we saw so many times in the first game of the stream. Archaludon continues the heal. The Primarina is still at neutral special attack and is just getting chipped down by the Life Orb and by the Sand. Has taken no actual attacks this game, but is almost at half health and will definitely be after one more attack and one more Sand chip. What are we going to see? The Tyranitar didn't do much other than reset the weather, which is valuable. We see the Farigiraf come out. The Trick Room is going to fade soon. Both weather setters switching out. The Grimmsnarl comes back out, ready to set up new screens, potentially. We see a Protect come out. Was this read into? And it appears to have been. We see a Calm Mind come out this turn, getting +2 special defense and +1 special attack now. This Primarina is back to being a big threat. I'm not positive that a +1 Moonblast will take out the Archaludon after how much healing it's gotten. But now we see ourselves in a position where the Farigiraf needs to reset up Trick Room for this Primarina, because it has faded, and now the Primarina is probably the slowest thing on the field. We see a Draco Meteor definitely not wanting this Farigiraf to get this Trick Room set up. Draco Meteor does good damage, but once again, Citrus Berry taking these bulky Pokemon and giving them a second lease on life. This Foul Play, without that Citrus Berry, the Farigiraf would have fallen. We see the Moonblast coming out, going straight into the Archaludon with that Leftovers chip throughout the last several turns. It does survive, and we are going to see a Trick Room come out from the Farigiraf, and suddenly we're in a bit of a predicament for James. You don't often see 2 sets of Trick Rooms being set up in one game, just showing how bulky and invested some of these Pokemon are. And the Primarina, you have to consider, is it just going to go for Liquid Voice? Is a +1 Liquid Voice going to be enough to take out the Archaludon with the light screen still up for a couple of more turns? The Archaludon says, I'm just going to go for Protect. I'm not going to risk anything. We see a Hyper Voice from the Primarina, does turn into a Water type with the Liquid Voice ability, does good damage into this Grimmsnarl, but gets continually chipped down by the Life Orb and Sand. It's not much further long for this world. The Archaludon protects itself. We see a Hyper Voice getting a bit more chip onto the Grimmsnarl, and a Foul Play is going to take out this Farigiraf now. So now we have to consider what is left. The Primarina only has a few more Life Orb hits before it goes down. Again, the Life Orb and Sand just considerably weakening this Primarina. It's taken no actual attacks this game. Camerupt comes out this turn, already Mega Evolved, and you have to imagine, wonder, what are we going to see here? A Heat Wave plus Liquid Voice, Hyper Voice will probably finish off both Pokemon on the field, but you can easily see the Politoed come back in and be able to resist both of those moves, as well as set up the Sand. Archaludon switches out, does go into that Politoed, wanting to preserve that Pokemon for later. If you can outstall the Trick Room, you'll see good things. And with the Farigiraf gone, the Primarina is able to go back to neutral special attack. And at that amount of HP, the special defense boosts probably won't matter all that much. An Electric Shock will still probably take it out. However, this was a very passive, no offense turn from James. So we're seeing a Heat Wave come out. It is Sheer Force boosted. The Rain does let the Archaludon survive, and with a crit, that Politoed still takes it all right. But what did we see the Primarina go for? Goes for a Water type Hyper Voice, does get the KO on Archaludon. Politoed survives, being very specially bulky, even with the Rain boost. And now that Sand is gone, you're not going to see additional chip on this Primarina. Still will only be able to manage one additional Life Orb hit before, well, it can use 2 more Life Orb attacks before fainting. But now, I think James has made a very smart call, leaving the Talonflame in the back, saying, hey, Heat Wave's not going to do much here, but if you ever click Earth Power, I can switch and completely negate it like I did earlier in this match. That was such a massive play. Politoed goes for Protect, just saying, hey, I want to stave off this Trick Room. Light Screen is reset. So we've had 2 almost full durations of Trick Room and a second Light Screen going up. Even with the Light Screen, though, with a critical hit, the Grimmsnarl does go down, and now it's a 3 versus 2, but this Staraptor's still at basically full HP. And this is very, very threatening. You know there's a Tyranitar in the back that can do massive damage here. So the attacks drop. Both of these Pokemon are special attackers. That's not really worrying. But this Staraptor can just close combat and not worry about too much for the rest of the game. Close combat's going to take out the Primarina, the Tyranitar if it switches in. Maybe the Camerupt lives, but Politoed's right there threatening water damage. So what are we going to see? No switches. The rain stays up. We see an immediate Mega Staraptor coming out. And what else? I believe we have one more turn of Trick Room. Politoed tries to go for Double Protect to stall it out. And there's an Earth Power into that Politoed that will take it out and make this a 1 versus 3. But you have to imagine a close combat is coming. Oh no, no Protect from Staraptor means that it's not going to go down. It will survive at 2%, but that will KO the Primarina and allow the Staraptor to attack into this, the Camerupt. The Tailwind comes out, does allow, if that Double Protect had worked, it would have made sure the Politoed was faster than anything that could have been on James's side of, on James's side of the field. But now just a Double Protect, Sandchip will take down the Staraptor, and that will be good game. So a very long one there. Charlie doing very well to manage his Trick Room turns properly in order to have the speed advantage to try to counteract the light screen advantage. We'll see how Game 2 changes things. I really think that for Farigiraf being able to threaten to block parting shots from the Grimmsnarl was very critical. But we will see. That Primarina just stayed on the field untouched for so long. It was able to get out so much damage, get so many Calm Minds off, that, again, it didn't faint to getting attacked. It fainted to 7 or 8 attacks off, and then a few turns of Sandstorm Chip doing the rest. That's something that I think you need to avoid if you're James going forward. Taking back a look at James's team. Yeah, so, again, just a little bit of chip. When you're dealing with a Pokemon that's just taking 10% basically every turn from Life Orb, if you don't have a ton of damage to throw at it, just doing a little bit, getting it over a 10% threshold can allow it to do so much. So, I think the Staraptor is potentially threatening, but I do think you might want to see the Swampert come out for the extra water damage, for the extra physical damage that's not the Earthquake able to do big damage, but instead still going with the Staraptor mode. But this time we do see something different. A Mawile comes out, throwing out its own Intimidate. This is before the Mega Evolution of the Staraptor, so that's actually -1 attack right now. And now there's a bit of a predicament, because the Grimmsnarl can't go for Reflect and Light Screen on the same turn. So what is it going to try to defend against? The Mawile's Play Rough or the Primarina's Moonblast? Both Pokemon on the field are very threatened by the Fairy-type offense that Charlie brought to bear here. Now, of course, Staraptor could stay in baseline form and just click something like Tailwind, in order to not take super effective damage from a Fairy-type attack. But you have to wonder, what are we going to see going forward? Because now that the Mawile has been revealed, you want to swap out of Intimidate and get Contrary as soon as you reasonably can. So here's the Staraptor. Here's the Mega Mawile. Haven't seen this all tournament, at least for the stream portion of it. Now, keep in mind, both these Mega Pokemon do have -1 attack. That is impactful. Staraptor goes for Protect, knowing it is public enemy number 1, wanting to let Grimmsnarl take some time to get up screens. We see the Reflect come out, and was the bait taken? Did these Fairy types go into the Mega Staraptor? No, the Moonblast goes straight into the Grimmsnarl. You have to imagine that's a one-hit KO without a light screen to help defend. And it's entirely possible that both of these Pokemon just went straight into the Grimmsnarl to try to guarantee a KO. We won't know what the Mawile was targeting because there's only one thing left on the field for it to hit. And if you're James, you got to feel pretty bad about that play. We see the Politoed come out now, setting up the rain, threatening Weather Balls. A Water-type Weather Ball stab in the rain will do good damage into this Mawile, but this Mega Staraptor is still very threatened with what's on the field. Mawile switches out, resetting the attack drop, and we see the Farigiraf come out, just trying to have a bulkier body on the field as a close combat comes into that slot. Now, with this +1 special defense boost, it will take this Moonblast pretty well. After, of course, this Weather Ball comes out, Farigiraf does manage to survive, will eat a Citrus Berry, allowing it to live probably one additional attack. But that will be next turn's problem, and this turn's problem is this Moonblast going straight into Staraptor. With that special defense boost, it stays up, it hangs on. But once again, Primarina is just getting free attacks off. 80% health left after 2 Life Orb hits. And it's showing why it is just so incredibly powerful. Now, Farigiraf definitely is not going to have time to get off another Trick Room. Citrus Berry eaten at half HP, but the Staraptor's not looking great either. It could go for Tailwind, but pretty much everything's shown so far on Charlie's side of the field, and honestly on his team in general, is slower than everything, so a Tailwind probably isn't even needed this turn. I'd like to see Staraptor either protect itself or go for big offense. So there's a Protect. Farigiraf goes for a Protect, wanting to keep itself up. We'll see. I would assume another Weather Ball's going into that slot. And so we see a potential Calm Mind or Moonblast, and Moonblast not falling for the Protect, going straight into the Politoed, and Politoed stays up. There's no light screen up, remember, so the Politoed doesn't take that as well as it did last game. Might survive another one. That could be a very unfortunate low roll, because if a Moonblast high roll comes out, that could just take out the Politoed with no chance of Citrus recovery. We see a Sinistcha come out saying, hey, I need to protect this Politoed, and it is actually threatening damage onto this Primarina now. Here comes a Weather Ball saying, okay, you protected once, but I'm going to get this big damage off onto the Farigiraf. A Moonblast goes into the Sinistcha, probably will handle it okay. Less good than I would have expected, down to under 40%, and the Primarina is just throwing out Moonblasts and getting into Trick Room. So without going for the double up into the Farigiraf is able to stay up and just let this Primarina have a massive amount of power in the remainder of this game. Sinistcha probably doesn't outslow the Primarina, so you have to imagine we're just going to see Moonblast to take out the rest of James's team if he doesn't have anything ready. James does go for Protect, maybe trying to scout out and bait the other Protects. We see a Psy Shot going into the Sinistcha, not quite going to be enough to take it out. And so a Weather Ball trying to, again, just chip down this Primarina. A Machagacha trying to make sure it finishes it off. So a good Protect there, and the Farigiraf goes down. And now we have Trick Room up, and you have to imagine we're going to see some big damage coming out this turn. So here comes the Tyranitar taking away the rain. That does mean that Hyper Voice, Liquid Voice Hyper Voice is going to not be as strong, but finally Tyranitar has entered the field and has its Focus Sash intact. So it's threatening big Rock Slides, big knockoffs, and again, the Politoed protects itself, just trying to keep itself up for one turn. But you really need the Rock Slide to miss here on Sinistcha, or else it's probably going down. and it does go down. So will we see a Calm Mind come out from the Primarina, or are we just going to see a Moonblast hit into this Politoed's Protect? And we do, in fact, see that. So Primarina takes a little bit of chip, Politoed takes a little bit more, and we're back in with Mega Staraptor. So Staraptor absolutely has the ability to click a Protect here, try to stall out one of the last 2 turns of Trick Room, but if it goes for Protect, it's only going to survive for 1 more turn due to the Sand Chip. I think Charlie has this very much comfortably in the bag, and James knows it and will forfeit. Congratulations to Charlie. Big comeback after losing round 1, making it to our finals here in the Midseason Showdown here at the Collector's Store in St. Charles. So I'm not quite sure if we're going to see the other round 4 game here today or if we're going straight into finals. I will reach out and ask, but however long it takes, I will see you all in the next battle, and I will leave you guys on a quick break until that happens. All right. So, just got some confirmation. The other top 4 match, the winner of that match had something come up and they had to go. So, I apologize, but congratulations to Charlie for winning the event. But that is all we have for you today. So thank you so much to those of you who came and watched, and I will see you all in the next video or next stream. Check out the YouTube channel. We have a draft league going on. Got a few more matches I've been delinquent in posting, but I will get to them soon, I promise. Probably, maybe today. I'm a little bit busy for the rest of the day, though. But talk to you all later.